My name is Elena Cross, 31 years old. The air inside my parents' house always smells faintly of lemon polish and disappointment. The kind that hides beneath compliments and casual smiles. The framed family photos along the hallway are perfectly aligned. Amanda's medical degree, Kyle's marketing awards, and, tucked into the corner, my DHS badge turned backward so the logo doesn't show. Work stuff, Mom had said years ago when she'd flipped it around for guests. No one wants to stare at government paperwork. Tonight, I'm home for her birthday weekend. The suburban Virginia sky has that heavy pre-rain hush, and the house hums with the sound of family trying too hard to sound happy. Dad is pouring wine. Amanda's talking about a hospital merger. Kyle's showing off a new campaign. I'm smiling in all the right places, though my mind is half on the encrypted call I'd ended just before walking in. A credible threat had come through a European partner agency. High urgency. The director's voice still rings in my head. We'll need your analysis within 4 hours. Still saving the world? Kyle teases. I laugh softly. Still trying. He grins, comfortable in the joke that my work is exaggerated myth. Amanda sips her wine, her silence saying what she's too polite to. Nobody here believes you're doing anything that matters. When the cake candles flicker out, Mom reaches for my hand. Sweetheart, you should stay the whole weekend. No computer, no calls, just family. I'll try, I promise, knowing I can't. By Friday morning, my secure line buzzes. Director Walsh herself, Elena, threat matrix incoming. Need your review ASAP. Understood. I close myself in my childhood bedroom, now converted into a guest room that still smells like old textbooks. I lock the door, start up my DHS-issued laptop, biometric scan glowing faint blue. I'd fortified the room months ago for remote protocol, reinforced lock, signal-isolated Wi-Fi bridge, blackout curtains. It's not a skiff, but it's close. On the desk, 47 pages of intercepted comms, surveillance stills, financial trails. Operation Sandstone. The name itself feels heavy, the kind that means real people will die if I misread one line. For 3 hours, I'm deep in it, annotating timelines, linking aliases, mapping digital shadows. My world narrows to the hum of the laptop fan and the soft click of keys. Then, a knock. Elena, honey, dinner's ready, Mom calls. Give me an hour, I say, not looking up. Her voice edges with irritation. Sweetie, it's Friday. You can finish later. I want to tell her that later doesn't exist when the word imminent is in the subject line, that later is how people die. But all I manage is, please don't come in. When I finish the assessment, it's 8:05. My head throbs. I transmit the report through encrypted channels, close the system, and step out for air. The night is soft and silver, the neighborhood still. The next morning, I go for a run. Standard protocol. Secure laptop shut, briefcase locked, printed packet stored inside. I jog the loop around Oak Valley Drive, letting rhythm chase exhaustion from my legs. When I return, sweat cooling down my spine, I stop cold in the doorway. The bedroom door stands open. No, I know that lock. I know the click it makes when it seals. My pulse spikes. I step inside. Laptop, closed. Briefcase, open. Packet, gone. Mom? My voice shakes. Did someone come in my room? From downstairs. Oh, honey, yes. I needed to grab your laundry. The door was locked, so I used the master key. Don't worry, I didn't touch your computer. The master key. The one from when I was 16 and Mom decided privacy was negotiable. My legs move before my mind catches up. I find them in the living room. Dad, Mom, Kyle. On the coffee table between their wine glasses, my classified intelligence packet. The DHS letterhead gleams under the lamp. Kyle's holding a page with surveillance photos. Dad's brow furrows over threat summaries. Mom beams like she's done something helpful. We were just curious, sweetheart. Kyle asked what you actually do, so I thought, why not show him? It's fascinating stuff, although the Arabic bits are hard to follow. I hear my heartbeat in my ears. Put those papers down. Kyle chuckles. Relax, it's not like we're posting them online. You shouldn't even be looking at them. Come on, Lena, Dad says, squinting. You act like this is nuclear codes. It's just work. Just work. Every page is stamped top secret. SCI. No foreign in red. The warnings couldn't be clearer. You've committed a federal crime, I whisper. Mom laughs. Oh, for heaven's sake, we're your family, not spies. I take out my phone, press the emergency sequence, panic protocol, direct to DHS response command. The room feels smaller. Everyone needs to put the documents down, I say, voice low and deliberate. Right now. Sweetheart, put them down! Dad freezes mid-turn. Kyle frowns. You're serious? Yes, step away. Kyle's phone is in his hand, camera app open. I just took one photo, he admits, sheepish. It's for my own reference. No one will see it. Delete it. He hesitates. You're overreacting. Outside, I hear the faint rumble of engines. Mom's eyes dart to the window. What's happening? My voice is shaking but steady. Homeland Security response team. They'll be here in about 3 minutes. You called the police on your family? I didn't call anyone. I followed the law. Then, headlights flare through the blinds. Tires crunch the driveway. Dad rushes to the window. Elena, there are men out there. SUVs. What the hell did you do? I did my job. A thunderous knock? No, a breach. The door bursts open, the frame splintering. 6 agents in tactical black sweep in, weapons drawn, voices booming. Homeland Security! Hands where we can see them! Mom screams. Kyle drops his phone. Dad raises his hands. I stand still, badge visible, breath locked in my throat. Agent Cross? The lead agent barks. Yes. 3 unauthorized individuals present. Confirmed. Unauthorized access to top secret materials. Active operation. 1 individual photographed documents. Secure all electronic devices, he orders. Another team bags the papers, gloved hands moving with brutal precision. Mom sobbing. Elena, tell them it's a mistake. I shake my head. It's not. The lead agent's gaze hardens. You understand this will have consequences. I understand. The click of flex cuffs sounds louder than her crying. As they're led out, Dad stiff with disbelief, Mom still protesting, Kyle pale. I feel a hollowness, so deep it hums. Amanda arrives later, summoned as next of kin. She storms in, eyes blazing. You had them arrested? They breached classified material. I followed protocol. There are parents, Elena. They're citizens who committed felonies. She stares like she's seeing me for the first time. You've lost your mind. No, I whisper. I've kept it. The agents finish logging evidence. The living room, our family's safe little theater, now glows with camera flashes and numbered evidence tents. When the lead agent approaches me, he lowers his voice. We'll need your statement. I'm ready. He nods, studying me. You did the right thing, but it's going to cost you. I look past him, to the coffee table where the papers had been. Something catches my eye. The page order slightly off, one corner bent differently. I file the observation away. The thought flickers. Was every page there? But I silence it. For now, I just watch the taillights vanish into the dark. I can still hear Mom's voice echoing in the hall. We're your family. And my own, trembling but final. That's not a security clearance. The house smelled different after they left, like latex gloves and broken wood. Evidence tents sat like tiny blue pyramids across the living room, and the clock over the mantel ticked with a pettiness I'd never noticed. An agent photographed the splintered door frame, the faint dusty print where Dad's thumb had pressed down on a page, the half moon of a wine ring on the coffee table that bled into the word no foreign. When the lead came back with his tablet, I was ready with the timeline. 3 hours of analysis Friday evening, I said, voice steady from practice, not calm. Packet remained printed and in briefcase. Door locked. Family repeatedly briefed not to touch my work. Saturday morning, I left for a run at 9:10, returned at 9:57. Door was open. Packet removed from briefcase, placed on coffee table. Unauthorized individuals reading. 1 photographed a page. You acknowledge leaving the printouts unsecured in the briefcase, he said. I do. The admission lodged like a shard. The laptop remained locked and undisturbed. He tapped notes without judgment, the kind that cuts more cleanly than blame. We'll process the scene. Expect interviews. You may be retasked away from remote work until review concludes. I expected as much. He studied me. You'll want to breathe sometime today. I'll pencil it in. A tech called from the doorway. All items bagged and logged. Devices secured. Copy, the lead said. Then, softer to me, you did what you had to do. It felt like hearing I'd done the right thing at a funeral. They sealed the door with evidence tape, gave me a card, and left the living room hushed and strangely wider, as if the air had leapt back from everything it witnessed. Amanda was on the porch steps, arms folded tight enough to bruise herself. The sirens were long gone. The neighbors' blinds were not. You couldn't have just Taken the papers back? She asked, eyes red with a doctor's contained fury, the kind that mostly shows up during bad news. No, that's not how classified breaches work. That's not how families work. I almost said, I wouldn't know, but I was too tired to be unkind. You operate in triage rooms, I said instead. You hold the wound in your hands. My harm is always hypothetical until it isn't. If those pages leak, people die where we can't see them. And you think Mom and Dad, what? We're about to fax them to a terrorist? She laughed, bitter, and it didn't sound like her. They were curious. You humiliated them. You put them on the floor like criminals. They are criminals, I said, and regretted my precision as soon as it left my mouth. Amanda, I didn't choose. The protocol chose. I followed it. Protocols don't put your parents in flex cuffs. People do. People who swore an oath do, I replied, quiet. So they don't pick and choose when security matters. She stared at me, something closing in her face like blinds. I thought I knew you. Maybe you knew the parts I could say. She walked away before I could explain the rest. There was always a rest I couldn't say. Within hours, the machine took over. Interviews, forms, a formal incident report where the words, I failed to secure printed materials, bloomed across the page like a spreading bruise. I was honest about my lapse and exact about what followed. The next day, a security officer with gray hair and a gentle voice asked me the same questions in 5 different shapes, not to trick me, but to measure my edges. He thanked me for my precision and did not smile. This wasn't a smiling job. The lawyer my parents hired, former federal prosecutor, called me for a factual statement. He sounded tired and expensive. They're very shocked, he said, picking a word that could survive court. We're pursuing pleas for your parents on misdemeanor unauthorized access. Your brother, unfortunately, the photograph complicates matters. It was one photo, I said, and heard the wish inside it. Sometimes one is enough, he replied. It shows intent, not just curiosity. I'll try to package it as thoughtless, not malicious. He paused. You should know the fees will be substantial. They're frightened. I know, my throat was ash. I'm not your client, but I know. The response from upstairs came fast. In Director Walsh's office, the blinds painted even stripes over the carpet. She held the file the way surgeons hold instruments. Clean, inevitable. We've completed the preliminary review, she said. You followed procedure once you discovered the breach. The unsecured printouts were a lapse. It's noted. Remote work is suspended for you for the time being. Yes, ma'am. She closed the folder and looked directly at me. You understand the personal cost of this choice. I do. It will not always feel righteous, she said. That's where most people fail. They want it to feel good. Integrity rarely does. A part of me almost laughed. How perfectly she'd sketched the shape in my chest. It feels like burning down your childhood home because the wiring is faulty, I said. And then living with the neighbors who think you're an arsonist, she added. You'll be supported here. That does not mean you will be held. I nodded. Support without holding was the only kind we could ethically afford. The legal cascade did what cascades do. Mom and Dad pleaded to misdemeanors. 2 years probation each, heavy fines, mandatory security training. Kyle pleaded to a felony count in exchange for 18 months. Amanda wouldn't answer my calls. Extended families subdivided themselves into neat factions, those who preferred the narrative where I chose career over blood, and those who believed in locks on doors. Holidays evaporated from my calendar without my help. Letters arrived. Mom's was a maze of apologies and accusations, all written in the same looped hand she'd used on my school permission slips. She only wanted to understand me. Wasn't a mother entitled? Dad's silence came printed on legal letterhead with his signature at the bottom, authorizing counsel to speak on his behalf. It felt like a posture paper from a country that no longer recognized mine. Kyle's letter from prison was the only one that acknowledged scale. He wrote that the security classes were a revelation, that classified wasn't a sticker for ego, it was a moat. He confessed, without drama, that he'd lifted the camera because attention had always felt like proof he existed. I wasn't going to post it, he wrote, but if I had, I get now that it might have killed someone. Then the line that hooked under my ribs. I didn't believe you did anything real. That's on me. I wrote back carefully, mindful of monitored ink. I did not absolve him. I told him I was glad he understood. I hoped the understanding would survive the gate. My promotion came as an email flagged private, the subject line so dry it felt like camouflage. Lead analyst assignment, a 22% increase, additional operational authority. The message held one sentence at the bottom from Walsh. Your response was exemplary. Your honesty about your lapse is part of that. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then closed my laptop and sat in the hush of my apartment, the kind of quiet that has weight. In the cul-de-sac where my parents lived, a doorbell camera caught the SUVs, and the HOA sent a brittle note about disturbances and community optics. I drafted a cordial reply and deleted it. You cannot educate a neighborhood at scale. When I stopped by to pick up some childhood boxes a week later, Mrs. Burnham across the street waved too brightly and asked if I was still doing the secret agent thing. I smiled and said, "No, ma'am, I'm still doing the paperwork." At night, sleep came in jump cuts. I kept seeing the pages fanned out under the lamp, the red slashes of classification banners, like open mouths. In one frame, barely a glint, I remembered a corner bent backward. The next page slightly misaligned, the pagination number not where my muscle memory expected it. Anxiety built its house on that inch of doubt. I knew better than to chase phantoms. Audits had counted every page. Still, when the light was low, the thought breathed. I filed a note to myself. The analyst's superstition. If something feels off, keep a quiet eye on it. Then I put it where all unshareable things go. On a Tuesday, I found myself in another interview room. This one softer. Ethics, not security. The investigator, a woman with kind eyes, asked me what I thought motivated my family. Love, I said first, because it was true. Entitlement, I added, because that was too. Pride, denial. The belief that privacy is negotiable if you want something badly enough, and the fear that if you can't open the door, you're not really inside the house. She blinked, surprised. Most people in your position paint them as villains. That's not analysis, I said. It's venting. She smiled, a small, unprofessional thing, and closed her notebook. That may be the wisest thing I've heard in this room. When I got home, I stood in the kitchen with the secured case on the counter. My reflection in the microwave door looked like a person pausing during a bad rehearsal, waiting for a cue that wouldn't come. The refrigerator hummed. The apartment breathed. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number that resolved to a spoofed agency contact. It referenced a line-break quirk in a sandstone subparagraph I'd seen in print. Need quick confirmation on that formatting, it read, followed by a link too clean to be real. I felt my stomach go ice cold. I forwarded it to Cyber with a sentence stripped of adjectives. Their reply came fast. Part of a broader harvesting campaign we'd been tracking. Good catch. Keep sending anything similar. I sat down on the tile and laughed once. The sound didn't make it to my throat. When the laughter died, there was only the hum of the machine we all feed. The one that asks for the right harm, then asks again tomorrow. I powered my phone off and let the room be a room. Later, in bed, a sentence rose without my permission. I wasn't built to be loved for the parts I can't show. It didn't feel like self-pity. It felt like inventory. Outside, a siren wailed and kept going until it was somebody else's problem. Inside, the apartment returned to silence, and I lay awake, counting pages I could no longer see, trying to forgive everyone for not understanding a life designed to be invisible. The first email came 3 weeks later, buried between agency memos and threat summaries. The subject line was sterile, post-incident review, Operation Sandstone, secure. I opened it with the caution of a person checking for traps, but it was routine. The operation was officially marked as interdicted. 47 arrests across 3 cities. Potential loss of life, mitigated. The word didn't mean saved, it meant averted, but I knew the difference. I read the summary twice, then minimized the window and stared at the reflection of my own face on the black screen. The work that had cost me my family had worked. The system hummed, the coffee went cold, and I sat very still because joy and grief had decided to arrive together. That night, I wrote a brief report for the archive, my analysis buried among hundreds of other analysts' names. No credit, no headline, no story. Just success acknowledged internally. It should have been enough. 2 days later, a letter arrived from Kyle. This one wasn't sorry. It was something stranger, rawer. He'd been in federal prison a month now. His handwriting, once showy, had shrunk into the small script of someone trying to take up less space. Classes here are intense, he wrote. They make us read case studies about leaks and breaches. You'd think I'd be numb to it, but it's worse when you know the punchline. Then, halfway down the page, he wrote something that made me sit upright. A guy in here asked about the document set, said he'd seen a screenshot floating around before I got arrested. I told him he was full of it, but it stuck with me. He knew the color headers, Lena, that red stripe. I read the line again and again. The security audit had confirmed all 47 pages were accounted for, every sheet bagged and logged. Still, Kyle's note gnawed. I sent a discreet encrypted message to Cyber Division. Possible external reference to sandstone document formatting. Request trace. No details, no speculation. I had learned what happened when curiosity outpaced clearance. Cyber replied within the hour, "We'll check chatter channels. Keep this thread internal." That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the living room scene in my head, the way one does with a near-miss car crash, slowing it down frame by frame. Kyle's phone screen flashing as he took the picture, his thumb trembling slightly. What if one image had survived the deletion? What if the photo had been uploaded automatically before the agents even arrived? I hated that my mind went there, but paranoia was just pattern recognition with bruises. The next morning, I was called into an ethics debrief. Not about Kyle's letter, about me. 2 compliance officers sat across from me in a room that smelled like paper and static. "Elena, we'd like your personal reflections for the training archive," one of them said. "The goal is to use this case as a teaching scenario for future clearances." "You want me to narrate how to destroy your family?" I said dryly. "Not destroy," the second corrected. "Navigate conflict between duty and empathy." I almost laughed. "You make it sound like a guided meditation." They were kind, but precise. "What do you believe motivated your family's actions?" "Love," I said, "and arrogance. They thought my boundaries were suggestions." "And what motivated yours?" "Oath," I said, "and fear. The good kind, the kind that keeps people alive." The woman wrote something down. "Do you regret it?" I hesitated. Regret isn't the right word. I remember it every second, but I'd do it again. After the session, the woman lingered at the door. "You know," she said, "most analysts compartmentalize by pretending their lives aren't collateral. You didn't do that." "I can't," I said. "Collateral isn't a checkbox when it has your mother's name." She looked at me for a long moment. That honesty will either save you or eat you alive. When I got home, there was another email waiting, this time a phishing attempt. It looked flawless. Agency header, secure login prompt, the right typography. But the message mentioned a specific phrase that appeared only once in the Sandstone brief. A line about infrastructure redundancies that no public source could have known. I forwarded it to Cyber immediately. Their response was curt. "Good catch. This is part of an ongoing social engineering campaign. Your case might have been used as a probe. Expect contact attempts." My stomach tightened. They hadn't just read about the breach, they were testing it. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the same packet, now reprinted and sealed, under 3 layers of authorization, spread before me for reanalysis. The red header gleamed like a warning light. For the first time, I realized how fragile trust was, even in a system built on it. One small act of curiosity had almost become an international leak. Kyle's letter hadn't been exaggeration. Someone had seen something, and the thought made me cold all over again. 3 weeks later, Cyber confirmed a small but chilling detail. An encrypted image fragment traced to a cloud backup had surfaced in a foreign forum. The metadata matched a timestamp on Kyle's phone. The photo never went public. It had been intercepted. But it was proof that a single second of thoughtlessness could ripple through the dark like sonar. I stared at the report, then I printed it, sealed it, and signed in my initials on the envelope for evidence chain. That evening, I wrote to Kyle again. "The world is smaller than you think. One image travels farther than footsteps. You helped stop something worse. That matters." He wrote back a week later. "I told them everything I knew. Maybe that helps. I don't expect forgiveness, but I don't want to hide anymore." It did help. Cyber quietly thanked me for the lead that tied off the loose thread. I never told Kyle. He didn't need to carry the full weight of what his small act had almost become. Afterward, I sat in my dark apartment, phone turned face down, listening to the city outside, a siren, a laugh, a train in the distance, and wondered if anyone else was awake because of my job tonight. I made tea I didn't drink. I stood by the window and whispered the line I'd written once in my own journal, one no one would ever see. Integrity means choosing the right pain. It had cost me everything soft, everything easy. But as the sky lightened over the rooftops, I felt something steadier than peace. Not forgiveness, not pride, just clarity. The operation had succeeded. The breach was sealed. And for the first time in months, I slept. The gate to the federal facility swung open with a groan that felt ceremonial. I parked, engine idling, pulse loud. 18 months had passed. The air smelled of wet asphalt and second chances. Kyle stepped out a moment later, leaner, quieter. His hair was shorter, his expression unsteady but clear. He scanned the small crowd and found me first. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then he walked forward and hugged me. It wasn't dramatic, no sobs, no speeches, just arms around each other, awkward but real. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice cracked from disuse. "Of course," I said. He pulled back, studied my face. "You look different." "So do you." We stood there, two people stripped of everything except blood and truth. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was space to breathe. Mom and Dad waited a few yards away. Dad's tie was crooked. Mom clutched her purse like a shield. They didn't wave. They didn't need to. Their eyes said enough, years of distance folded into one complicated stare. Kyle looked over his shoulder. "They're trying," he murmured. "I know," I said softly. "So am I." We walked to the parking lot together. He talked about the classes he'd taken inside, digital ethics, small business planning. "I might try again," he said. "Maybe consulting, something low profile." "That sounds good." He hesitated. I told the instructors everything I remembered, about the photo, about the guy who asked. They said it helped. "It did," I said. "You closed a door that others could have opened." He nodded, eyes glinting with both shame and relief. "I get it now," he said. "The rules, the fear, it took prison to understand, but I get it." We stood in the morning chill, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was on opposite sides of a war. Mom approached then, her heels clicking too fast. She stopped 2 feet away, tears shining. "Was it worth it?" she asked, voice trembling. "Destroying your family for your job?" The question hung between us like smoke. I thought about the operation, 47 arrests, the subway cars that never exploded, the people who went home to their children that night without ever knowing they'd been saved. I thought about the one missing page that wasn't missing, the image that had been caught before it could bloom into catastrophe. And then I thought about my parents' living room, once filled with laughter, now echoing with ghosts. "Yes," I said quietly, "it was worth it." She flinched like I'd struck her. "You don't even sound sorry." "I am," I said, "just not for doing my job." She turned away. Dad followed, his expression unreadable. They didn't say goodbye. Kyle stayed behind, watching them go. "They'll come around," he said. "Maybe," I whispered. "Or maybe they'll just learn to live without understanding me." He smiled faintly. "Either way, you did what you had to." When I drove home, the highway blurred through the windshield, raindrops streaking like Morse code across glass. Somewhere along the route, I realized I wasn't shaking anymore. 3 weeks later, Director Walsh summoned me to headquarters. Her office smelled like paper and coffee, her expression as precise as always. On her desk sat a small black box. "Agent Cross," she said, "your work on Operation Sandstone and the secondary containment effort was exceptional. We intercepted a social engineering probe that could have compromised multiple assets. Your vigilance prevented escalation." I didn't respond right away. My throat felt too tight. She opened the box. Inside lay a silver medal embossed with the agency seal. "The Intelligence Community Exceptional Service Award," she said. "Classified citation. You can't display it publicly, of course." "Of course," I murmured. She fastened the ribbon around my neck herself. "Most people in your position would have handled the family breach quietly," she said. "Reclaimed the papers, given a warning, moved on. Easier, safer." "And wrong," I said. Her smile was small but genuine. "Exactly. Integrity means doing the right thing even when it destroys you." For a second, the metal felt heavy, heavier than metal should. "Ma'am," I asked, "was it worth it?" She looked at me with something like sadness. "That's the question no one can answer for you." Later that night, I placed the medal in my secured display case. The biometric lock clicked, sealing it away with the rest of my ghosts. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the rain tapping the window. I made tea again, same mug, same habit, and sat on the couch. The phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. I told them everything I knew. Maybe it helps. Okay, I exhaled slowly. It did help, but I didn't reply. Some things were better left unwritten. Across the room, the laptop pinged, a new secure alert. Another operation brief, fresh, waiting. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Outside, the city moved as if nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. I remembered the line I'd whispered once. I wasn't built to be loved for the parts I can't show. Now, I added to it, quietly like a prayer. But I was built to guard what keeps others alive. The cursor blinked. The system awaited input. I opened the file, steady hands on the keys. Somewhere, people I'd never meet were still breathing because of what I'd done. That was enough. Had to be enough.